You know, you guys, to be honest with you, I knew this video was going to be coming eventually. I just didn't necessarily know how long it was going to take to see what I was looking for to actually unfold on the court. But I mean, I'm sure most of you guys watching know about the New Orleans Pelicans, right? Because even though they are the team that people are somehow still finding ways to sleep on, their expectations for this season are clearly higher than they've been in probably the last decade. And even though it isn't the only reason, it is undoubtedly the biggest reason why this is so in the return of Zion Williamson. And while yes, his return to the court has been nothing short of phenomenal through the few games that we've seen, I know it'll sound crazy, but let's just throw that out the window for a sec. Because aside from everything the NBA expected to see from the Pelicans this season, it seems that through just a handful of games thus far, that they've already shown the rest of the league something that they probably aren't going to be a fan of. One sec though, guys, if you haven't yet, don't forget to like the video if you do enjoy, subscribe, and turn on those notifications to never miss another NBA video. Love you guys. And if you're a regular and haven't yet, now is the perfect time because around 95% of you guys that are coming back to watch the content haven't even subscribed yet. Regardless though, I appreciate each and every one of you. But anyway, let's get back on topic with the New Orleans Pelicans, who again, to touch back on Zion Williamson, clearly looks like every bit of the player that he was before injury and is only going to continue to improve hopefully as the year goes on. And trust me, when I say this, I am not only referring to the impressive numbers that he's putting up, but it also testifies to what he has been able to actually do on the court, not just for himself, but for his teammates as well. And honestly, it doesn't matter who the player is nowadays, because if you're a guy like Zion, where his offensive game is solely predicated on scoring inside, regardless of anything else, even if it is very likely doing the greatest good for your team, people are going to have an issue with it. And to try to respond to these people, number one, I don't see how having one of the most physically dominating presence in the league try to bully their way to some easy buckets ever being a bad thing. And two, some people just seem to quickly forget that when you have a guy that can score as efficiently as Zion has been able to do in the past from the inside, that this will almost always in turn do wonders for a team's mid-range and perimeter offense. And well, in case you guys forgot, the firepower of this offense beyond Zion is sitting pretty well with perennial all-stars in CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram, who right alongside Zion have some pretty solid averages for themselves. In fact, you couldn't ask for much more in terms of balance out of a big three leading your team. But for both CJ and BI, who have clearly showed so far in their careers that they are more than capable of creating their own offense at almost any given point in any game, while almost every NBA fan, obviously including myself, was extremely curious to finally be able to see how this big three was going to operate on this side of the ball together. Again, yes, while it has been a small sample size, I think the ridiculously high offensive rating we've seen from the Pelicans can definitely speak to what I'm trying to say. But even aside from the big three leading this team, and of course they've all done their fair share to contribute to all of the games that we've seen so far, while the spotlight was on these three and what they would be able to actually do together going into the season, it's not even the scariest part that we've seen about this Pelicans team, at least in my opinion. Because when you want to start a conversation about what might be the biggest cause for concern for opposing teams, it might just be the ridiculous bench and depth of the Pelicans that not many initially thought they had. And at this point in the NBA, while it's more clear than it ever has been that an abundance of star power is always going to be a team's number one priority when going for a championship, but I mean, if you don't have an adequate supporting cast alongside these stars, it's really just going to be a dumpster fire. And when I tell you the Pelicans have an adequate supporting cast, at least when you consider what most people probably expected, that in itself is a massive understatement. Because I mean, just starting getting into this, we already have one of the most underappreciated bigs in the league right now, in my opinion, and that is Jonas Valanciunas. And I'm sure some of you that don't really pay attention to the Pelicans might just laugh at that statement and completely disregard this, but I mean, this guy is slowly looking like more and more of a genius trade acquisition by the Pelicans front office. Because, well, he's the fourth highest scorer on this Pelicans team at this point. He's a big who has exceptionally improved the need for outside shooting, which has only done wonders for this offense. And I mean, he's also one of the more physically dominating forces that the game has to to offer, and putting him on the court right next to Zion is definitely going to cause some teams issues. But even aside from all of the underappreciated value that Jonas has clearly added to this team, you also have second-year guys like Jose Alvarado and of course Herb Jones, who both in their own respective rights could each be considered the steals of the 2021 draft. Because with Herb, you have an early second-round pick that is already showing DPOY capabilities and only adds to the defensive tenacity of this all-around team. And Jose Alvarado, I mean, he is just a Swiss Army knife that you, relatively speaking, picked up for free as an undrafted free agent. I mean, seriously, with Alvarado, absolutely nobody expected him to be this efficient for the Pelicans, probably except himself, and he's just the gift that will keep on giving. And then there's also one more second-year player on the Pelicans that I haven't mentioned yet, who I wouldn't necessarily say is a household name at this point, but if he continues to do what he is so far for this Pelicans team, he will undoubtedly be one by the end of the season. So if you're unaware of him, just remember the name Trey Murphy III. And again, by no means am I trying to guarantee that he is going to sustain the averages that we are seeing from him so far into this season, but if you just take a look at the improvements that we've seen from him so far this year across the entire board compared to his rookie campaign, and also not to mention the absolutely ridiculous three-point efficiency that he is showing on the even crazier volume of shots that he's taking per game. Trust me, I do know that the three-point shooting is not going to be sustainable, but if he can keep up his production across the entire board from what we've seen, the Pelicans might just have one of the best up-and-coming snipers in the league, and on top of this, a most improved candidate coming off of their bench. And with going into detail on some of their bigger pieces so far, I haven't even got to mention some of their other players and guys like Larry Nance, Naji Marshall, Devonte Graham, Jaxson Hayes, and even rookie Dyson Daniels. So I think it should be mentioned that when these guys are more so in the background when focused on the role players of this team, it should really emphasize even more how loaded this Pelicans team actually is from top to bottom. And I know some people are probably also going to make the argument that they're just off to a hot start, most of their bench pieces are young, and they're not going to sustain the level of production we've seen. And while yes, I could see a point being made for this, we've already seen case scenarios early on in the Pelicans season where some of their secondary pieces and players on the team have been able to step up effectively and grind out the win when missing two of their top three guys or even three or four of their top seven. And then when you have a team that can do this, it's only even more reassuring to hopefully confirm you'll have the best chance of having a fully healthy roster when you hit the postseason. And I don't know about you guys, but I have personally been waiting for what seems like years to see this team fully healthy and what they can be capable of once they hit the biggest stage. But we still have a long regular season ahead of us, so with all things considered, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. However though guys, with everything mentioned so far regarding the New Orleans Pelicans, I am also extremely curious to hear what you all have to think about their situation. So please let me know in the comments, what are your expectations for the Pelicans' big three throughout the course of the regular season and even into the postseason? And also, what has been the most surprising part to you about everything you've seen from the Pelicans so far this year? But again, you guys, if you haven't yet, don't forget to go down below and leave a like on the video if you did enjoy, and of course, subscribe while you're down there. Just trust me, you guys, brand new content is just going to continue to come out every single week as the 2023 season is finally upon us, so again, you do not want to miss out. But also, I just wanted to say thank you so much to each and every one of you out there for watching. I appreciate you all more than anything, you all know this, and I will see you guys in the next video.